sleep. So for me, I coming. We are going to go ahead and start our program and presentation. So I'm going to hand it off to Michael to begin with the introductions.
So good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone of California State University Northridge, or as I like to call you, my family, my Matador family. I hope you're all doing a fantastic and I hope you're all having a wonderful day. So today we're actually going to be talking about the data from the food survey, and I actually wanted to present those who worked on it specifically.
Hi everyone, my name is Paige Hodgelu. I currently serve as the chair personnel for associated students here. I am a third year here at CSUN, majoring in psychology and minoring in political science. So thank you all for joining us today.
Hi everyone, my name is Eden Joshua. I serve as the Vice President of Associated Students. I'm a double major in Business Law and Business Honors with a minor in Communications, and I am a senior.
Hello everyone, my name is Katie Karoum. I serve as one of the lower division senators for Associated Students. I'm currently a second year majoring in kinesiology exercise science, and it is a pleasure to see everyone here.
Fantastic. And for those who are watching on YouTube Live, make sure to hit the like button. I know y'all are going to have a fantastic time. So a couple things. I just want to know that the report that you all got sent was a preliminary report. We wanted to get feedback from the campus stakeholders and we wanted to know, right? So we took the information, we took their feedback, and now we're working on a more detailed report per se. So a couple things, right? We are associated students. What does that mean? Well, associated students is a primary advocate here at California State University Northridge, right? We like to ask ourselves a lot of questions, right? Like how? How can we make campus better for students? How can we ensure that campus and students here have the best time, right? They chose CSUN, so we have to make sure that we give them everything we can, right? So a couple things that like popped up in the beginning of the year was like the food on campus, right? So we're like, okay, like how can we as the student body, as a student body government, ensure that quality of campus food is at its peak, right? We don't want to be number one. We don't want to be number two. We want to be number one on any CSU level, on any like UC level. We want to be number one when it comes to everything. So we started asking questions like, how can we do this? How can we work with like the stakeholders here on campus, right? So we had our president and our vice president talk to the university corporation, Chartwells, and asked them like, hey, like, what are the options? What can we do? They got back to us. They let us know that if we can give them statistical data, let them know like, okay, like what are the options? Where are the locations that we as a university can work on? You know, so that's why we're all here today. So actually, we're going to be talking about three things, right? The goals, the methods, and the survey findings. So I'll pass it on to our vice president.
Thank you, Michael. So before we begin talking about our goals, methods, and findings, I want to let you know that we will be having a period, an opportunity for questions at the end of the presentation and feedback from you all. So please, if you can have them prepared throughout, that would be really helpful for us at the end. So in terms of the goal, so this report really aims, and this presentation aims to inform the University Corporation, Chartwells, and relevant stakeholders about the opinions of students and faculty regarding the dining options here at CSUN. And as AS is the primary advocate, like Michael was saying, of the students at CSUN, we believe that it was important to gather information from as many students, as many faculty and staff as possible. So our goal in this report is to create a more collaborative conversation where we can work with Chartwells and TUC and other entities to further diversify and create more, and so that we can diversify the food options and so that we can meet the needs of our students. So with that, I'll pass it on to Katie to discuss our methods.
Thank you, Eden. So to collect data in September 2022, AS created the Campus Food Service Survey, and this survey took approximately 2 months to develop, revise, and complete before being shared with the campus community. Feedback was collected from all members of Associated Students Leadership, the University Student Union, and AS staff members when formulating the questions and overall completion of the survey. The questions underwent revisions by a sample of AS staff, AS student staff, and the USU before being finalized for publication. Once publicized, the survey was open from November 14th to December 16th. To market the survey, flyers were made in collaboration with Associated Students Marketing, big hand to them, and posted in all residing buildings throughout the campus that the Matador Involvement Center, also known as the MIC, permitted to post in. The survey was promoted with the incentive of having a chance to win a $50 gas card. A promotional video was also made and posted on AS social media, Mindscreens, and newsletters. We're going to be playing the video for you guys.
Hey Matadors, I'm Kenny Crew, one of your AS Lower Division Senators. Associated Students is asking everyone at CSUN for your thoughts on our food options on campus through a 5-minute survey that you all can take. This information will help us make meaningful changes for your dining experiences.
I'm Eden Joshua, your AS Vice President. We want you to have the opportunity to share your concerns about the quality, taste, pricing, and general food experience on campus. You must be asking yourself, how do I take this survey? Well, I have the answer for you. I'm Josie Anderson, your Associated Students Attorney General. These flyers will be posted all around campus. You can scan the QR code with your phone, and it'll only take you 5 minutes to complete.
Your AS representatives will be tabling at Matador Square during AS Farmers Market from 10 to 2 on Tuesdays. The second tabling location will be in front of the bookstore complex from 3:30 to 5:30 on Thursdays. Feel free to grab your AS merch while you're here.
The survey will be open from November 14th to December 16th. And did anyone mention there'll be a prize? I don't think so. You could be entered into a drawing to win one of 5 $50 Arco gas cards.
Associated Students advocates for all populations here at CSUN, and we hear and understand your concerns, the main one being the food that we have on campus. We want to turn it into real change.
If you have any questions or concerns, feel free to email anyone in this video. We want to hear what you have to say and want to spark the change you want to see on campus. But that starts with sharing your opinion. Thank you all, and we hope to see you at our tabling events.
Okay, thank you. So again, another shout out to Associated Students Marketing, because that was an awesome video. Yeah, it was great. Like a Ratatouille-esque type of video. Okay, great. So awesome. So yeah, that was our promotional video that we got posted in any means of social media that we could. As well as that, and as well as our tabling, and as well as the flyer, QR code postcards containing the survey link were given out and tabled at various events multiple times a week to gain traction from students, faculty, and staff at CSUN. As AS Senate and Cabinet sent multiple emails to all college deans, committee members, and higher administration individuals at CSUN. Department chairs followed up by sending emails to students publicizing the survey. Postcards containing the survey QR code were placed at facilities such as Freudian SIP, AS offices, and personally handed out to students. So this is an awesome pictures. These are some awesome pictures of us tabling, and that's me with Daniela Cross's son. Shout out. A majority of outreach to the community was accomplished by tabling at Matador Square during the AS Farmers Market on Tuesdays from 10 to 2 p.m., as well as tabling in front of the campus bookstore complex from 3:30 to 5:30 p.m. on Thursdays. AS merchandise and snacks were also given out to anyone that took our survey at our tabling events. Many individuals shared their detailed insights and support on the topic. Lastly, during the week of November 14th, the survey was presented to the members of the Faculty Senate Board over Zoom, and AS expressed the goals and procedures of the project, as well as the option to share the survey with the members' constituents for them to take. It should be noted that AS members tabled during the AS Farmers Market on Tuesdays from 10 to 2, where a majority of our respondents came from, which is also a time frame that is often inaccessible for graduate students, who were only 11% of all survey respondents. And now I'm going to pass it on to Paige Hajalou to describe our first amount of findings.
Yeah, so we're going to move on to who took the survey. So as you can see here with the graph, there we go. So the survey was concluded on December 16th, 2022. Again, there were various tabling events and everything. So we had a total of 2,065 responses, and that included students, staff, faculty, and other, which we'll get to. So there were a total of 81% of students who took the survey. There were 12% of staff members, 6% of faculty, and 1% of other, and those identified as student and staff.
I'll be taking over the satisfaction levels for a bit. I'm back. You thought you could get away. So satisfaction levels. So we asked students, right? What do they feel about the food options that are being offered to them on campus? So as you can see on the graph, about 6.4% of the respondents were reported to be very satisfied about the food options, while 37% were moderately satisfied. In contrast, 34.6% of respondents were slightly dissatisfied with the food options, and 21% of those who did respond to this survey were very dissatisfied about the available food options here on campus. And I'll pass it on to Ed and Shashu about the quality of food.
Thank you. So as you can see here from the graph, in the food survey, participants were asked to share their thoughts about the quality of food offered on campus. And the results showed that 9.3% of respondents were very satisfied with the food. 47.5% were moderately satisfied, and 30.4% of the participants were slightly dissatisfied, and 12.8% felt very dissatisfied with the food on campus. So I'll pass it on to Katie for Taste of Food.
So for the taste of food, participants were asked to rate their level of satisfaction with the taste of food offered on campus. The results showed that the majority of students were moderately satisfied with the taste of food, specifically 53.7% of the respondents. Moreover, 11.2% of participants reported being very satisfied with the taste of the food offered. On the other hand, 26.1% of the participants reported feeling slightly dissatisfied with the taste of the food, while 9.1% of the participants felt very dissatisfied. And now I'm going to pass it on to Paige for the value for price paid.
Thank you. So according to the recent food survey conducted on campus, the taste of food offered was evaluated by the participants and the respondents that we have. So specifically, 6% of the participants were very satisfied with the value for price paid. Moving on, we had an additional 40.7% of students, faculty and staff who obviously participated in the survey, that were moderately satisfied with the value for price paid. On the other hand, we had 37.8% of participants that were moderately dissatisfied with the value for price paid of food. And lastly, we had 15.6% of the participants were very dissatisfied with the value for price paid on campus. Pass it on to Eden.
I think we're passing on to Michael.
Yeah. So hours of service, we asked them, how do they feel about the hours of services? Are the hours of services accessible to them? They ended up coming up with about 42% of them were moderately satisfied regarding about the hours of service. 20% had a very strong satisfaction about it, and a little bit higher of that was the dissatisfaction about the hours, and 12.8% were very dissatisfied about the hours that were offered on campus. I'll pass it on to the availability of healthy options to Ed and Joshua.
Thank you. So another question that was asked in the food survey was how satisfied students, staff, and faculty were with the availability of healthy options on campus. So the term healthy here was up to the discretion of the respondent to define. And so as you can see from the graph, about 11.9% of participants were very satisfied with the availability of healthy options, followed by 37.4% being moderately satisfied. And on the other hand, we see that 20.1% of respondents were very dissatisfied with the availability of healthy food options, and again followed by 30.5% being slightly dissatisfied. Excuse me.
So in our next question, we asked the students, faculty, and staff if they had any dietary restrictions. And as you could see by our graph, the results show around 36% of our respondents have a dietary restriction, and the other 64% did not have a dietary restriction. And let me pass it on to Paige to go more in depth on that.
Yeah, so as Katie said, 36% of our respondents did have a dietary restriction. However, I think it's important to recognize and identify more specifics for that. So as you can see, 39% of our respondents are lactose intolerant, so they cannot consume any dairy products. 23% are vegetarian, so they cannot eat meat. 11% are gluten-free. 10% are vegan, so again, not consuming any type of animal product. 8% follow the halal diet, and 9% follow the kosher diet. Move it on to Michael.
Regarding about familiarity, we wanted to know about the familiarity about campus food options. We want to know, do students really know about these options? Do they not? So we asked them, right? First, we started off with the campus store complex. We asked them, if they know about these options, right? A majority of them knew about Panda Express, as well as 78%. Pollo Loco had 72%, of students who actually did know about Pollo Loco. And then about, what's the right word? As you can see on the graph right here, a majority of students do know about these options. They do know that like Fry Shack is there, Panda Express is there, Pollo Loco is also there, Sambazon, and the Matador Mercado. We asked them about the other options on campus, right? A majority of them did know about Subway. They knew about the Arbor Grill. They knew about Shake Smart, the Mercado. A majority of, but however, a good amount of students didn't know about GMO's or the Bamboo Terrace, but that might be just because they're in the residential halls compared to having the other options here specifically on campus. So we're gonna go on to purchasing.
So we also asked our students how, just like in the slides you just saw before, students were able to give multiple responses to these questions just so that we could get a gauge of how many students were aware. And so we did the same thing with how many students actually purchase from these locations that we have. So so as we can see here in the campus store complex, the most popular food locations that students purchase from are Panda Express, El Pollo Loco, and as well as the Matador Mercado. And then again, with the other food options we have on campus, other popular areas were Arbor Grill, Subway, the Mercado, and then Shake Smart is also pretty popular, especially for those who are passing by G3, going to the gym, getting some protein in.
So next, how often do the respondents say that they would buy food on campus? So 8.5% of respondents said they buy food on campus very often. Sorry. So there's that, and indicating that they purchase food multiple times a day from campus. Second, 13.61% of respondents said they purchase food from on-campus eateries often, and we just define the term often as purchasing food daily. Next, the data depicts that 36.66% of respondents sometimes or 2 to 3 times a week purchase food on campus. Furthermore, 34.87% of respondents purchase food from on-campus eateries not very often. Quote, not very often was defined as purchasing food once a week. Lastly, 6.3% of respondents do not purchase food from campus at all. And I'll hand it off to Michael for how often goods are purchased off campus.
So students are here on campus. They end up knowing, they know about the other locations that are around the area. We asked them how often they buy food off campus when they're here on campus. So we can see from this that about 10% very often do go outside of campus to purchase their foods. About 13.39% go outside of campus often, so daily. And then sometimes is 620 respondents did respond with that, which is 31.33%. And not very often was 583, which was 29.46. And not at all was 15.77% of the students who did not decide to buy campus here and went out of campus to buy their food.
Awesome. So again, if y'all have not already realized, one of the main focuses of this survey was to really understand, the on-campus food options and, what students are willing to pay for. So obviously the last slide showed how often they purchase food. So now it's what is the reasonable price that they're willing to pay for on-campus food. So as you can see here, about 60% of, respondents think that $5 to $10 is a reasonable price for a full meal. And I want to clarify, in the survey, a full meal was a main dish and a side or a drink. That's what we classified it as. Moving on, so about 37% think that $11 to $15 is a reasonable price for a full meal. 2% think that $16 to $20 is a reasonable price, and 0.10%, or almost absolutely nothing, think that $21 to $25 is a reasonable price for a full meal on campus. Alrighty. Now for the next slide, this is going to be talking about, again, like the other one, how often do students buy off-campus food? Well, what is the reasonable price for off-campus food for students? So as you can see here, about 28 29% of the respondents think that $5 to $10 is a reasonable price for off-campus food. Around 49% think that a reasonable price is $11 to $15. 16% think $16 to $20 is a reasonable price for a full meal, and then around 3% think that $21 to $25 is reasonable for a full meal off campus. And again, just to mention, a full meal did include a main dish and then a side or a drink.
And so, as part of our survey, in some of the areas of the questions that we asked students to, give us their opinions. And so we have some testimonials that we picked from the survey that we thought reflected some of these, opinions regarding the questions that we asked. And so we would just wanted to share a few so that we can see where we can go moving forward.
I'd rather drive somewhere that has more options for way cheaper.
I am an observant Jewish student that keeps kosher, and my options on campus are extremely limited.
The on-campus options are slow, overpriced, and not as enjoyable to me as off-campus options. So, moving forward, what are we as associated students going to do? Well, first and foremost, we're going to keep on having these conversations with students. We're going to be creating focus groups with the students who did say that they would like to be participants of a focus group. We believe it is essential that if we're going to come up with a reasonable and a solution for the whole student body, we need to talk to the student body. We've talked to student leaders, we've been talking to the cabinet, the executive cabinet, and the AS Senate or board of directors about how can we move forward for this. We're also open to collaborating with Chartwells, with the university corporations, to find different ways to be able to get students to have better food options here on campus. I know times are difficult at the moment economically, but I think we still have to remember that we are part of a university that does have a good percentage of students who are getting financial aid, right? The amount that a student can use financially is limited. So that's what we're moving forward. And next thing is questions.
Yeah, and just before we go to that, another thing, just like we said prior, in the true goal of this report and this presentation is to foster more collaboration. It's to foster more communication between different entities so that we can work together to really achieve our goal of diversifying the food and addressing different student needs here on campus. So we'd like to open it up to the floor for questions and some feedback as well. Yes, go ahead.
Okay, I think one of the things you guys really need to focus on is customizability. What do I mean by that? Well, you have kids with a bunch of different needs here on campus, right? They want to make sure all their needs can be met. How do you solve that? Well, restaurants that are traditionally customizable. What do I mean by that? Chipotle, Jersey Mike's, etc. You get what I'm saying here?
Mm-hmm.
And then maybe one tried and true restaurant that you know is always going to get traffic no matter what. Like an example, In-N-Out. Or any of those popular burger places. But you know In-N-Out, every time you pass by it, it's bumping. You see that line in the drive-thru coming out. Like you guys, I'm just saying, I mean, if you guys need to make it cheaper too, because frankly, it's almost more expensive here than, because I could drive to Chick-fil-A and for $11 I can get 2 sandwiches, 2 entrees. Whereas here, it's expensive just to get a combo, which again, you guys defined as an entree, a side or a drink, not a side and a drink. So I can get that cheaper here off campus. So frankly, if you guys want to be competitive, you have to lower the prices, and you need customizability, and like I said, one tried and true restaurant that everyone's going to go to no matter what, which I suggest In-N-Out, but personally, you guys can maybe find that out yourselves, but that's what I have to say about that.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much. And these are definitely things that we've considered. And in the process of creating the survey, we did have a wide range of goals. And personally, I'll speak for myself that one of them was to bring something like a Chipotle on campus, because I believe it to cater to a majority of our dietary restrictions, and the fact that students, faculty, and staff can come into this industry and pick what they want. They're not really subject to one confined thing. And following our presentation, we do plan on having a detailed conversation with the Senate and creating a report and recommendations, a list of them that will be pending Senate approval and will be presented to our stakeholders.
Yeah, and also, guys, I don't know how you're gonna do this, frankly, but maybe find a way to subsidize the cost to make it more attractive for students that want to spend their money here on campus. Because frankly, even if you do bring in customizability, that's only gonna work so much. Because they're gonna say, hey, well, there's a Chipotle down the street, you know, over on Tampa. I can go there, and they're cheaper still than the Chipotle here. So yeah, you're gonna have to find a way to do that too, frankly. But
Thank you so much for your feedback. And, I'd really love if perhaps you would like to join one of those focus groups that we're planning on having
oh, I will. Yeah.
after this. And that's definitely something that we can also talk about in our conversations with the University Corporation and Chartwell. So thank you for bringing that to our attention.
I look forward to it.
Thank you. Dr. Watkins.
Yeah, so first, thank you for undertaking this. This is a real big help for the entire campus community. Thank you for including not just students, but employees in the data set as well. So you've lived with this data a whole lot longer than we have, and you presented a lot of results. If you had to summarize your main takeaways, what would those be?
So primarily, the two issues that we saw throughout, and as we're continuing to build this more detailed report, is that students are facing issues with the variety of options on campus as well as the pricing on campus. So, moving forward in our collaboration and conversation, those are two areas that we really want to tackle as a team and as a student government to really support our students in those ways. Thank you for your question, Dr. Watkins. Yes, Heather.
I thought it would just be a good idea to take a moment to introduce
Yeah,
our team here. So
please.
we're talking about the corporation in Chartwell. We are here. So I'm Heather Karen. I'm with the University Corporation, and two of our senior leaders from Chartwell are here. We have Samantha, who is the Senior Food Services Director, and Chef Bill, who's our campus chef.
Mhm.
So again, I echo Dr. Watkins in thanking you for doing this. This is great work. You want to come work with us more? That would be great. So we're here to listen. We absolutely appreciate the feedback. We want to hear the feedback, so we're taking notes. We do have a copy of this as well. And as you mentioned earlier in the presentation, Ed, we absolutely want to partner with you. Chartwell is our partner. It's your partner. AS is our partner. So we're here to work with you. And after today, we look forward to ongoing conversation. And Chartwell's as well is about to put some focus groups together. So we'll be reaching out to all parts of the campus to participate there as well. And then it'll be fun to see how that data intersects with yours so we can hopefully make some progress. So thank you.
Yeah, of course, and thank you for being here, and we appreciate your time, and we're looking forward to that collaboration in the near future. Any other questions? Yeah, please.
You can see better which one of the categories are, need improving. Because mostly they're 50%, around 50%. But like you said, the prices, the value, and the variety, 50%, over 50% are dissatisfied. But the quality and taste, thank you, Chef, are good. They're, less than 50% are dissatisfied. So if you just stack them, you can see satisfied versus dissatisfied.
Yeah, definitely. We just wanted to take a bit more of a transparent look at it. We wanted to give everybody like the options. We wanted to just make it seem like, make it be and like feel like a good data for sure. But yeah, we've thought about that and we've worked with that option, but we decided to take it as a more transparent way of just letting you all know about where the range is. But thank you. Any other questions, comments? I do take compliments as well.
Great. Very thorough.
Hi everyone, Samantha Lucia-Hers. I'm the Associate Director for Operations and Services. Thank you for doing this. I think this is really helpful information, especially as an operator of the USU. It's just great to hear students' feedback and staff and faculty, so thank you for also including them as well. Just a follow-up question. When are you planning on having these focus groups with students, and what type of information are you going to dive deeper into during those focus groups?
So I think as a team, we've come to the consensus that we do want to involve our Senate a bit more in this conversation before we take bigger initiatives, because We're aware that the Senate is the board of directors for this organization, and we don't want to speak out of line to what the organization believes. So through that, we are going to be having these conversations in our Senate meeting agendas. So I would encourage all of you to attend our Senate meetings, Mondays, 9 a.m. in the Grand Salon, which is the building right here. And they're going to be incorporated in our agendas more frequently. And throughout those focus groups, I think we are going to meet more and gauge more feedback, again, from you all and from our stakeholders and from the Senate in the process of creating these questions and how we want these focus groups to be made. Go ahead.
I just want to touch on that. I just want to touch on that as well. You know, we did have 720 people that were willing to provide us testimonies and to be part of these focus groups. And so not only do we have the overall data that we showed you, but we have individual responses as well. So I think kind of, you know, to your point about, you know, what exactly we're going to ask them, it's about addressing, you know, why did you rate this a certain way? Why did you, you know, think that this is the most reasonable price? Or why did you, why don't you know about these restaurants? And really understand where they're coming from. And that will help us to, like we've said in the past, just kind of, again, be more, first of all, them being transparent to us, and us being able to voice the students' needs and concerns. And like Eden said, we really want to foster a community of collaboration and, you know, put out meaningful changes, but also realistic changes as well. We understand that, you know, a lot of these things are going to cost money, and that's not what we want the students' money to make sure that it's going to a valuable place, and that this is something that they think is valuable. That's what we're going to do for them. So yeah.
Yeah, and in terms of timeline for focus groups, that's something that we'll be working on after this presentation and throughout the next couple of weeks. So hopefully sometime after spring break, we'll start those.
Dr. Watkins. Oh wait, Daniel's on his way.
Yeah, I know part of AS's work is responding to spaces where they think there are concerns, and certainly there was a concern this year, but I want to encourage you as you do your work to think about from a long-term perspective how AS stays a partner in this conversation. Even when things improve, because they're going to improve. I mean,
Right.
we're not going to stay where we are, but really I think that, you know, students would appreciate knowing that on an ongoing basis, AS is keeping its eye on and is engaged in this particular space, because it's such a huge part of the student experience here at Cal State Northridge. So let's lock in for the long haul. Yeah.
I totally concur. Thank you so much, Dr. Watkins, for making that point. And I want to make a slight comment that my personal recommendation, and again, we are forming recommendations to get approved by Senate before they're shared with our stakeholders, that I believe that associated students should be involved in those conversations, exactly put as you said, and almost like in a committee sense, because in our mission statement, we are the advocates for the students, and we are trying to make the learning experience more spirited, more enjoyable, and that's why we're here. So we equally believe that we should be a part of this conversation as well.
And to add on to that, we have two famous and fabulous people here. Our Attorney General, who does Senate in a minute, and our Chair of Communications, who is in charge of like letting the word out, as well as our amazing marketing team in the back. So yeah, whenever we have like a Senate in a minute, we tell them about what's happening in Senate. So as these conversations keep on happening on Senate, we'll let them know, we'll let the students know, as well as with our Chair of Communications starting the Keeping Up with the Cabinet. That will be also a way of us telling students like, hey, we're still working on this, we've heard you, and we're gonna keep on working.
Heather, go ahead.
Paige, I appreciate you mentioning cost. All of these things, obviously, some of them will be easier to execute than others, but we're very willing to help share what costs look like from an execution standpoint, so I appreciate you mentioning that as a factor. I just wanted to make sure that was stated, so.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, go ahead.
I just want to say one more thing, sorry. I'm not sure who chose the restaurant that you guys have now over, well, I call it the cafeteria, but obviously it's something else. Anyway, yeah, like Samba Zone, no one really knows that. I'm just thinking you guys should use You know, like food places that are tried and true. Like people go to Pollo Loco and they go to Panda Express because they have a reputation of dependability and generally good tasting food. No one's gonna really go to San Bazon because that's not really popular around here. And Shake Shack for the same reason. Again, the Shake Shacks aren't really around here. That's why I gave the options I gave, because Jersey Mike's, again, it's around here. Chipotle, duh, it's like right down the street. And then In-N-Out, that's been a tried and true. I go to that place at least like 3 times a week because it's so good. I mean, I just give the suggestions I gave because I know people are gonna go there because they have a reputation and a history of dependability around here. But that's all I wanted to say. So
Thank you so
do your
much.
thing, yeah.
And really quick, I just want to mention we are definitely considering these things. And these are conversations that we've had for a really long time. And that's why following this, we do want to have a conversation with TUC and Chartwells to really understand what's in our scope and understand, like Heather you mentioned, the pricing and how much like we can really do in terms of, again, yeah, pricing and contracts. And there's a lot of things that play a part into being like, hey, we don't want this place anymore. We want to just, bring any place. And, we wish it was that easy as well, and I'm pretty sure everyone in this room wishes it was that easy. Yeah, but I'm acknowledging the fact, and we are acknowledging the fact that we've definitely considered those things as well. Thank you.
Sean, go ahead.
We have a question from chat. Can you confirm the count of responses are actual participants? You reference responses versus respondents.
I think we might have just used them interchangeably,
Yeah.
but they are the same, yes.
Yes.
Dr. Khan, I believe you had a question?
Yeah, I first thank you for this work. It's fantastic. I just wanted to know a couple of things. Your work aligns very well with the campus roadmap to the future in 2 important ways. One, it was really interesting to see how you identified who was responding, both in terms of demographic background as well as preference, because it highlights the need for us to be inclusive as a campus in everything we do. That 17% of our students are halal or kosher tells us something very different than what we might find on a different kind of campus. And ensuring that every student, regardless of their background, is able to be on campus, utilize food services, et cetera, is really critical. In addition, as you know, we view everything we do as part of a student success strategy. And so even food service is one of those things that and I know that Chartwells and PUC is all over this, we want to ensure that we're able to serve the needs of our students so that they're able to be on campus, persist through long days, be well nutritioned, et cetera, so that they can be successful. So thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you, and we're always reminding ourselves to keep that JEDI initiative on a constant basis.
Of course.
Thank you, Danny.
So there was a couple questions on the survey that talked specifically about AS Farmers Market. What were your initial findings from that, and have you identified any potential changes of what you're going to do for AS Farmers Market or any of your other AS programming?
So the responses that we've received about the farmers market were actually pretty positive. We are aware that students know about it and they do purchase most of the time. We did also note that some of the prices were a little bit expensive. And that's obviously normal because it is like a farmer's market, it's an independent vendor. But overall, it seemed like from what the results that we did receive were overall pretty like people were aware and they did purchase.
I think too it's important to note that the farmers market is not a constant, food source on campus. So I think we're really trying to, push our focus more to, food services that are going to be on campus 24/7, rather than farmers market, which is only here for a limited amount of time on one day of the week, So it's not that it's not irrelevant. It's just it's not our main focus right now.
Thank you, Samantha, for that question. I do have it pulled up on the survey. Give me one moment. I'm going to share you. So with our survey, we asked, we asked the students that told us that they were aware and do buy from the farmers market, how often they purchase from the farmers market. And 56.75% said they sometimes purchase from the farmer's market, which we defined as once per month, and often was 23.82%, which we defined as 2 to 3 times per month, and very often, which we defined as weekly, was 19.43%. So again, to preface that the farmer's market is a weekly event that happens only on Tuesdays from 10 to 2, and we have a massive variety of vendors that come in and share different foods from different cultures, and not even just food. There's toys, there's bakery items, there's, I don't know, crystals, there's so many things. So it's a very, I see it to be a very popular event, and the fact that I remember, because I was there, because it was me. At the beginning of the survey, I don't know who was with me. I don't know. The tabling was like a blur, because it was like all a lot. So I was there with probably other people, and on that megaphone, just take our survey at the farmer's market. That place is crowded. So definitely attracts a lot of students, and it's in a perfect place for walking traffic and stuff like that. And the majority of our respondents came from the days that we did table at the farmer's market.
To add on to that, gonna plug it in. Farmers Market, produced by our productions team. Make sure to come on by. Great foods, great eats. It's always a great time. There's always something happening there. We just had our Valentine's Day thing on February 14th. So yeah, come on through. We did have another question in the chat. It was, can you repeat how many students are halal and kosher according to this survey?
Sure.
According to the survey, so out of the 36 respondents that did have dietary restrictions, 53 of them were kosher and 50 of them were halal, or followed those diets. Yeah. Yes.
I noticed this doesn't match your presentation, so is this, am I reading this wrong?
This one?
Yeah.
No, the fact sheet. Oh.
No, that's so weird. Hold on.
The dietary restrictions, the percentages on this document don't mirror the presentation.
Yeah, so I'll clarify on that. Okay. So what we do with the presentation is, so 36%, so how it works is when we did the graph, they could either choose, they had a dietary restriction, none, and then we had the options for them. So we went ahead and, used Excel or calculations and took out of those 36% of students who did have a dietary restriction, those were the numbers that we presented here. But these are just from the raw data itself. Okay. Yeah. And we can talk more with you on that too, just to clarify.
No, that helps. Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Oh, so just to clarify, sorry. So you guys compiled the data in this and then applied it to the entirety of all students, is what I'm hearing.
No, so we had 36% of the individuals that said, was it 36 to be exact? Yeah. So 36% of the individuals stated that they did have a dietary restriction, and these are based on our respondents to the survey / responses. We use that word, those two words very fluidly. Yes, so out of those 36%, we have them by numbers. So the 36% obviously represents a number of students that responded. So we grouped the numbers of the individuals that listed that they did have a dietary restriction and asked them what dietary restrictions they had. And we put those in a bigger percentage that embodies that 36% that says that they do have a dietary restriction.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Just for that one question.
Yeah, yes.
Following up on that, I know there was an option as other. Were respondents able to put in what other was, and what were some of those other things that come up? That would just be helpful to know.
I will tell you right now.
Thank you.
Huh? Yes, go ahead.
So some of those were multiple of the dietary restrictions. Because that question, we only put one option. So some of them stated that they were both vegan and gluten-free and lactose intolerant. Others did say like a couple of other allergies that they had. So some students stated that their allergic to fish. Some were specifying what types of meat they do or don't eat. So more like that. And then we also got additional, like some students were kosher and vegetarian. So it was a combination of a lot of some of the ones we already put down. Other questions? Are there any more in the chat?
There are questions in the chat.
Thank you to the chat for staying so lively and engaged. We see you.
Someone says, are you willing to redo the survey to make sure that this data is accurate?
So we are willing to do that, and we would like to do that in terms of following up, like Dr. Watkins said, for long term, to see also where we have improved. So this is something that we would love to do again next fall to see, you know, how the percentages have changed. But from the data itself, the numbers that we received are pretty accurate. So.
And we also have to remember that as the years go on, as the school year goes on, the populations on campus do end up changing, sometimes drastically, sometimes not that drastically. So we do have to keep that in mind, but we are willing and we're willing to make this a yearly event. That way we can tell students like how the state of the food is.
Are there any final questions? All right, well, if there are none, thank you so much, everybody, for being here. We really, really appreciate your time and that you came to see the presentation and ask your questions and give us your feedback. We will be working again on this more detailed report that will have our recommendations, which will be pending Senate approval. And once that happens, we will send out the report to the campus in more detail. So.
And I want to just add on to that. Obviously, this is just like a 1 hour and a half little presentation, but please keep the conversation going. Address it with your constituents or your peers, I should say, your faculty, staff, coworkers, whoever, so we can get the conversation, you know, still moving and everything. Share the data. If they have any questions, refer them to us. We're here to, you know, hear y'all out and truly understand what, you know, your concerns are and what your needs are as well.
And just a reminder that we will be making this conversation more involved within our Senate. So I would encourage you all to, if you are able to come to our Senate meetings. They span from 9 to 12, but that's just our open time frame in the case that they do span for a really long time. And they're every Monday in the Grand Salon, which is the building right here. And we will be sticking around to answer more questions or have any follow-up conversation. I will be leaving, but they will be sticking around.
Thank you, Matadors. Thank you for joining us to our presentation today. If you have any other questions, comments, concerns, you can always come to us. We are in the Associated Student Leadership Building, which is right downstairs in the University Student Union. You can see a big red sign that says Associated Students. You can always come down. I'm always there. Eden's always there. Katie's always there. Pedro is always there. If you don't even have questions, you can just come out and like hang out with us. We got free merch sometimes. You can come out. Hey, it's always fun. But other than that, thank you very much. Thank you for the viewers on YouTube. And I do shows for free. So thank you and have a great night.
Thank you, everybody.